Cobs Rugby Club will hold an elective annual general meeting at Velocity Bar and Restaurant this Saturday. The second most successful club in the country, behind Heathens, will go to polls to elect a new club chairman. With 4 positions on the table, only one will say face-off, with Dr. Tony Stone Luggya locking horns with Isaac Lutwama Nsubuga. The winner will work with the 3 other unopposed members of the ex-co, that is Timothy Kabonero, who will be serving as the vice chairman, Vincent Otim in there as the treasurer, and Brian Odongo, the secretary of the ex-co. Now, the sports had the one-on-one with both candidates about their future plans for the club. Isaac Lutwama, we know that you have intentions to stand as the chairman of Cobs Rugby Club.
Yes, I do.
For starters, who is Isaac Lutwama in rugby circles?
In rugby circles, I'd say briefly, I've been playing rugby since 1996 in my high school.
Yes.
I graduated to represent my high school from that 1996 up to the year 2000.
Yes.
In 2001, I joined Kampala Old Boys Rugby Club.
That's Cobs.
Yes, Cobs. And I also had the chance in the same year to debut for the Uganda 7s team and the Uganda 15s team.
Okay.
And I've basically been with Cobs Rugby all my life.
Yes.
I've had an upbringing in rugby from the days of, when it was really amateur and we were just, young, happy university boys.
Yeah, to be on the pitch.
To be on the pitch and, just have a drink afterwards. Up until now, looking at it, to the point it has developed to, some players actually making a living out of rugby. And I've had the perspective of seeing it as both a player and as an administrator for almost the last 21 years since I joined my club. Being
on the other side of B and rugby and now being in administration, making sure people take something at home. How has been that transition?
It's not been easy at all because first and foremost, rugby is still not resource rich. We still have a reliance a lot on our sponsors and our partners.
Yes.
Not so many clubs are income generating, and even the income they do generate is not enough to cover the expenses for a whole season. And we've seen that with the development of the game, players are becoming, of course, better skilled, and with a better skilled player means a higher cost to maintain such a player. And even then, in the cases of covering things like injury and treatment and all those things, there is basically the cost of now running a rugby club or even maintaining one single rugby player has changed dramatically. We no longer have to look at players as just picking facilitation. But if we want to improve our players, we ask them to get better. They are also going to ask for
better remunerations.
Yes, better remuneration. So I think rugby needs to prepare itself for that kind of scenario. And I see that many clubs have adopted a similar stance of, contracting players and being ready to move from amateur to semi-pro and maybe even move it on to full professional. Like our cousins in football have done.
I read your manifesto and it was full of hope.
Yes.
But do you believe in it?
I do believe in it. I stand by it. I've seen that as a club, we have started planting the seeds for some of the things that I actually think I want to build upon. And I believe that with us, working as together as a club, we can actually deliver that. I don't want to call it a manifesto, but a promise, and I think a strategy that will put our club in a much better space than it is right now.
These are good ideas. I went through them and I'm like, okay, if implemented, the club will actually go up there and compete with the Kenyan clubs, the KCB. Yes. However, do you think you're the right man for the job?
The one thing that I know about our club and what our club really needs is commitment. In terms of someone who, first of all, makes the time. This is a full-on voluntary job.
Yes.
No one gets paid. Has the club at heart and will sacrifice time to be there to, make sure that things are being done well. And I don't think anyone can doubt me on that arm. The other thing that we need in this club, I think, is a person who has the vision and the patience and the skills to also pull people together and get people to work together, which I believe I can do and I have done previously. The other bit is also about being able to, attract partners and work together with all the other stakeholders in this game, because people need to realize that our game has many stakeholders. From the players who play, the most important part of our sport is our players and their welfare. Then even our partners who we partner with, who come to be our sponsors. Then you think about our fans, another very important part of our game, who we have to engage. And I think the person who wants to have this job has to be able to reach across all these aspects of the club and be ready to work with everyone who's in that space. And for me, I think I do feel that portfolio. I have shown in the last 5 or 6 years that I've been in administration that I can do this, and that's why I think I'm the right candidate for this job.
That word voluntary work, that hinders someone like to propel. And the other thing is, the main stakeholder, you've mentioned that main stakeholder being the player. As a former player, what plans do you have for their welfare?
I think for the longest time, our players have been treated as almost a good that is being traded and back and forth between clubs and national team, and not so much has been done about their welfare. I think we've pioneered trying to getting our players contracted, getting them signed onto serious contracts that mean they must deliver by their tasks, but also building them not just as rugby players but as professionals, because the one thing that you realize that even our players, we have to aspire to build better men before they are players, and that's one of the values of our club, is to make sure that we actually build outstanding members of society out of our players and our stakeholders. But for the longest time, if we keep considering them as only rugby players, we will not be able to deliver on the aspect of developing them as upstanding members of society. And for me, I think just laying those foundations, mentoring, picking them up from not just looking at them as rugby players, but giving them opportunities even in other spaces outside rugby, is the kind of thing that I want to see for our player. Giving them the opportunity to partner. I mean, if it's when we run partnerships from the national team to the outside clubs, giving them the opportunity to explore outside horizons, not just in rugby but in life itself. I think those are the kind of aspirations I have for our players, and for them to think beyond rugby only, to know that even after rugby there is a career that must follow, because rugby is going to only take you so far, and rugby will only last you until, if you're lucky, if you're 35 or 36. But after that, what's next? Are you going to hang around and just dream about what the past was? But you must prepare yourself for even life after rugby.
That thing of having volunteers, how are you going to set targets for them, get their volunteers?
One of the things that if you read my plan, is first and foremost to constitute a fully structured secretariat to run the club, because from my experience that I've seen, an ExCom is not enough to run all the affairs of the club. We still have people who volunteer and do roles here and there. But to attract, I think the best, we must put in place some kind of reward for them. Be it it may not be a standardized high contract reward, but some form of reward that actually gives them the pride and the fulfillment of being part of a rugby organization. And for me, that secretariat will be now a source of some kind of organization and a level of hierarchy for the club. For the longest time, we've run as an ExCom only club. It's about time we start planning for the future. In the future, we probably need to have maybe a CEO under that ExCom to run that secretariat and all other things, because the club is not just all about delivering on pitch and things like that. There will be other aspects that will come in the future, because if you look at the plan we're building, there are going to be many things that people will want to add on, but if we don't start planning for them now, we will always remain as just a club on the pitch but not off the pitch. And for me, I don't think it's acceptable for a club that is the oldest in Ugandan rugby to be that way.
These are big plans. How many years do you need to implement this manifesto, all these ideas?
Ideally, it's a step-by-step process. I would, in the ideal sense, actually to start laying the foundations for this manifesto would probably need about 2 years, and that is laying the foundation. And then to now start seeing the fruits will probably take about another 2 years. Okay. One of the things that has been agitated for, and I think will be, if you've seen the plan that I've come up with, is to have a constitutional review to see how we can give the ExCom at least a longer time period to execute plans, because 2 years is a very short time. Yes. And for me, I think it is a discussion that, win or lose, whoever comes in should be able to drive, because I think 2 years is a short time to give an ExCo to land a plan. I would think 4 years to land it, and then maybe another 2 years, like I said, 2 years to land it, 2 years to start executing, and maybe another 2 years to start seeing fruits. So giving the ExCom and the people who are making decisions time to start, first of all, laying foundation and bedding them in is very, very important for me.
Speaking of amendments, reviewing the constitution, what are those amendments you have in plan to improve the constitution of Cobs Rugby Club?
I think, like I mentioned, the first one is about the term limits of the ExCom.
Yes.
I think it's our ability to also prepare ourselves for the future in terms of, first of all, very little is said in our constitution about how we prepare for players in terms of their progression from being the part-time players that they are now to becoming semi-pro, fully professional.
Yes.
Very little is said about the terms of the club in terms of preparing itself to do any kind of business that will generate revenue or build it into the future. Very little is said about.
So there you're speaking about becoming a limited company.
I'm talking about preparing ourselves for that kind of progression.
Mm-hmm.
So will it be a limited company? Will it be, a club with a board of trustees to run affairs? Something of that sort. There are so many things that are not yet mentioned in our constitution. For example, the allowance for Cobs to actually constitute a female side. To have further representation on our ExCom from our fans and our women and our women's representatives. There are so many things that our constitution really needs to look into that will diversify and make us ready for the advancement that the growth and advancement that we want to do as a club.
Cobs has one big problem: a home.
Yes.
What are your plans, Sebo?
So Cobs has had the unfortunate, or should I say, I don't know that it's a misfortune, but we have for the longest time been situated in Kampala, at Kampala Rugby Club, now called Legends Rugby Club.
Yes.
But it no longer feels like the spiritual home of rugby. And we have, over the last 3 or 4 years, looked at opportunities on how to find ourselves a new home. Not many of them have come to pass, and I think it's down to the approach we've been using. Like I already mentioned, I don't think an ExCom can run all aspects of a club and keep all of them focused or driven towards achieving them. I think the plan for us to acquire a new home has to be looked at by the ExCom with the help of people who are actually experts in this field. For me, what we've done so far is we have 2 good opportunities that are sitting on the table.
Yes.
But the fact that because of the way our constitution allows works, we have to first bring them to the ExCom, to the AGM, and get stakeholders to buy in on them, and then we decide whether to proceed. In this time and space, that is such a long-winded process for us to make decisions. I think giving or empowering a set of trusted and experienced people to make those decisions and then advance the story for Cobs would be a very suitable way. For me, I think also acting quickly when we see those opportunities has been a hindrance for us. Yep. So right now, with the 2 opportunities we have on the table, if we do not act within the next 6 months to 1 year, we might be back at square one to searching again. So for me, it's about advancing the opportunities that we have as fast as possible, and also ensuring that by the time we have these opportunities, a clear plan on how we are going to fund them has been formulated, which in the past has not been done very well, simply because the ExCom is caught in 2 spaces, running the club and doing other things. And right now, I think if we constitute, and we're very intentional about this, within the next 18 months, Cobs will be ready to move into, at least we'll have identified a good opportunity and start developing it in readiness for occupation within the next 2 years.
Regardless of the outcome on Saturday,
Yes.
will you extend an olive branch to him and his supporters?
The one thing that I know is, and I've been mentioning, I've served this club even before I joined the EXCOM.
Yes.
Irrespective of what the result is on Saturday, when our members and stakeholders vote, I will continue to serve this club in every opportunity in every way and opportunity that I can. Win or lose.
Yes.
Win, I will of course extend an olive branch. I don't think Cobs is not a team that never seen competition before. We've always been a team full of competition, so I'm sure even in competition there are people who push you to get better. Yes. I will reach across the aisle. Even in defeat, I will be willing to, at least table ideas and help advance my club, because we do all of this for our club and not for our own advancement. So for me, it's even a no-brainer. Whatever comes on Saturday, I'm going to still stand here for my club in whatever form or way I can.
Okay, thank you very much. And
thank you so much, Julius, for having me.
You're welcome. And to you, dear voter, you know where to cast your vote from. We can't decide for you. You've heard from the big man.